Everybody, today I wanted to do I'm wanting to do a series about what separates a stronger players from weaker players. What are the key things? Because I think a lot of people misjudge what exactly the differences are. You know, we assume that stronger players have much more strategic understanding and things like this, and I guess that's certainly true. I don't think that's the critical difference between what separates, say, a 2000 from a 1500 player. I think, and I want to illustrate this in a game I had a few months ago, but I think the key difference is a tactical ability. I think too many times weaker players focus on strategic understanding when they're just losing because they're losing games based on tactical miscalculation, not on strategical themes. And you spend countless hours studying an opening, and then you lose to a Night Fork. It's about prioritization. What wins games? Usually the opening does not win the game. And at the club level, usually strategy doesn't win the game. Usually just good tactical ability wins the game. So, but in this game, I'd like to show, I played a weaker player. He was rated somewhere around 1600 or so. I played it in a tournament in North Carolina. I was black. And I want to talk about time management. And in this game, I noticed that this player took an unusual amount of time on very obvious moves. It started out as the King's Indian, which I mean, I'm not going to go through all the details of the King's Indian. I don't have time. That's not what this is about. And I want to show that in this game, I took very little time in the opening. But when I recognized that the position, there was a call or a need for calculation, I stopped playing quickly and I took my time. Since my opponent had been using so much time on moves that were very obvious, he didn't have the ability, when the position became critical, he didn't have enough time on the clock to calculate what was actually important. And here's the starting position, which he played h3, and this is a pretty standard way to play against the King's Indian. White's actually planning on flipping the script and maybe castling queenside, and then trying to, do a kingside attack on black. So here White's trying to beat black at his own game, because in the King's Indian, black usually is the one with the kingside attack. And here, what's funny enough is I totally blanked. Did not even, maybe it was because I was playing a weaker opponent and I just wasn't too worried, and I just played e5 here. Totally thinking that, okay, well, if he takes on e5, I'll just play like a simple exchange variation where he's played h3. And what's funny is I didn't even think about the fact that probably I should castle first. Of course you should castle first here. But I didn't use much time. I was just playing very quickly. And here he thought for 15 minutes. And we were playing a game 70, by the way. He thought for 15 minutes and then took on e5. And I was thinking, what on earth do you need to think about for 15 minutes to take? That was a pretty obvious move, because I had clearly made a mistake thinking I had already castled. So of course I had to take, and he takes, and my king's here. So he had used 20 minutes on the clock from this position. I had used less than a minute. And this is what when you only have 70 minutes for the game, this is what I'm talking about. Understanding that in the opening and in positions where you can just use general themes, it is a bad idea to be just thinking for a huge amount of time on moves that are very obvious. It was obvious what was going to happen after he took on e5. There was no need to calculate that for 15 minutes. And I think maybe it was because he was I don't know if he was intimidated because of the rating difference. I don't know. But I don't think so. I think I had noticed throughout the tournament that he was getting into time trouble in every game. So here I was up 20 minutes already. And you know what's hilarious is I didn't even know that I was so out of it that I thought this was just a normal exchange variation from the King's Indian. I didn't even realize that I was supposed to have castled, which of course I know that. But in the game, my mind was not at all functioning correctly. I knew something was weird. I just couldn't quite figure out what it was. I played rook e8, which I knew this is clearly a little bit unusual position, and clearly white does have to have some kind of advantage here. He's going to develop much easier, and my king's going to be awkwardly placed the whole game. But as we're going to see, due to his time he's spending, he plays bishop d3, I don't know about that move. I mean, I guess it's fine to put it there, but I think maybe bishop e2 is better, so he has the option for the rook coming to the open file. But I think that was probably inaccurate. So I played c6 here to keep his knight out of d5, which would have been a problem. And I still hadn't used very much time here, and this is the key. There was not much to calculate. Of course, there were not really any crazy tactics that I was needing to examine. And so I was playing relatively quickly because I didn't see the position as being... I had a plan. My plan was to develop, get the king maybe on c7, and try to hold down the fort and play f5 just like a normal King's Indian and maybe migrate my pieces. Whether it was a good plan or a bad plan, I don't know. So he played b3 here, and I thought, okay, he's going to put the bishop on b2. And he had maybe 40 minutes left on the clock at this point, and I had maybe 65 minutes. So I played a standard move in the King's Indian, knight a6, and he surprised me here and played bishop a3, which was surprising. I actually didn't expect this, but when I saw it I said, well, it's actually not a bad move. It's pretty sensible considering it would be more effective, I think, if the bishop was on e2 and he had the option to play rook over to d1. But maybe that's not the case. So I thought this was interesting, but he only had about 40 or so minutes on the clock. I played h6. The knight, I've got to make sure the knight can't come in. And I'm wanting to play knight h5 and maybe knight f4. And white has a very pleasant position. He had to have been pleased. I mean, he's definitely not having any problems here due to my mistake on move 5 or 6. He castles. Okay, that's fine. I played knight h5, just trying to get to f4, and if I get to f4 I'm fine, at least the way I felt it. If I can get the knight to h4, I'm going to be fine. And here he thought for 15 more minutes, and with 25 minutes on, no, I'm sorry, he played 92. He played this very quickly, which I don't think was a good move at all. We don't play passive moves. We think of some other way. Maybe it was... Although I will say it's hard to keep me out of f4, so maybe this move was necessary, but it doesn't look pretty. Here I played f5, just in keeping with the King's Indian. I'm just going to play. And a possible, I probably played this, wrong here. I should probably have been spending a little more time developing. But I needed to get something going, and he wasn't exactly making very constructive moves either, so I felt like, okay, I've got to work something up. But here's the point. This is the part I want to talk about. He thought for 15 minutes here. Not after rook d1. Yeah, he thought for 15 minutes, played rook d1. I played king c7, and then he thought for another 10 minutes and played knight h4. So now he has about 15 minutes on the clock, and I have at least 50. And this is what I'm talking about. He was using too much time to make obvious moves like rook d1. That's not something that needs to be calculated for 15 minutes. And I think a lot of players, even stronger players, have this problem. Like they're so worried they've got to find the exact perfect move. And here this is where I spent 25 minutes on this position because I was thinking, did I miscalculate? And am I going to lose a pawn? Because I wasn't seeing, if I play g5, he can take on f5. If I play takes on on e4, he can play bishop takes, and then that he can do several different things actually. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm just losing a pawn here, and then I played a very good move, bishop f6, and I'd spent 20 minutes here, and this is the point. This is clearly the time where we need to think. Not in the opening at a very simple, we're putting the pieces on simple areas. But since he only had 15 minutes, bishop f6 sets a trap. And he didn't have enough time to figure out what that trap was. He just, after another 5 minutes, so he has 10 minutes on the clock, he took, thinking he was winning a pawn. And here's the advantage of having extra time in the critical position. I played f4, and now the knight is trapped completely, and there's absolutely no way to save it. And no matter what you do, and I think he underestimated the possibility. He played bishop c2 thinking that the knight was maybe going to come here, or he was going to get this check in on the king, but he underestimated this move as well, c5. And now the bishop's shut out, and he only had about 5 minutes on the clock here, and played king h2. I played rook g8. He took, I took, and it's suffice it to say we can stop here and say that I won the game from here pretty easily, being a piece for 2 pawns. But he just collapsed. He was too low on time, and usually after you screw up like this, you kind of just get so down on yourself you don't even play at your full strength anyway. But the point of this video was to show that he took time. Let's go back to the beginning. I just want to talk about this. This didn't make any sense. 15 minutes to calculate d takes e? What? I'm trying to think, what on earth was he calculating that required this much time? There's no need to calculate here. The point of this video is do not calculate things that are not necessary to be calculated. This is just clearly a decent move. White's going to take, and king takes. I'm in a bad position here. And in other critical, in the other opening stages, he was taking too much time. And at this point, he only had about 20 minutes on the clock for making very simple developing moves. And that proved to be his downfall when the position actually got critical. So for all you players out there, weak or strong, I just want a word of advice. Don't get trapped up in the opening trying to find the exact perfect move. Because here you see, I played the wrong opening, got not a bad position out of the opening, and still won the game because I was better with my time management. And although, yes, I was a stronger player, in this case, my strength was in the knowledge of knowing how to manage the time I was given. And I'm sure if he had had more time and not spent all this time on those opening moves, he would have probably saw that after knight takes g6, he's going to lose the knight. And I mean, even here, after knight h4 and bishop f6, I think no matter what he does, I'm probably better. So, because if he goes back, he's got problems too. So the point is, I might not be better. Maybe I'm overstating it, but I'm certainly not losing. So I just want to reiterate again and again, be careful. Your time is as valuable as anything. It is a critical part of the game. Do not waste it. It's like spending all your paycheck on food. Okay, yeah, food tastes great, but at the end of the day, you need more than that. Okay? That was probably a bad analogy, but I just wanted to give you an example. So hopefully you found this video instructive and you will apply it to your own games. I'm sure you will see improved results if you just followed that very simple idea. Thank you very much.